Hi-ho, everybody. Harry Brailsford here from SMB Nation. It is finals week in winter quarter for the MSP Tech Talk before we all get to go on a virtual spring break. So we're not allowed to go down to those Gulf of Mexico beaches and so on this year, but we can have fun online nonetheless. So next week is spring break. Keep it safe out there, folks. We are in the final section of the curriculum. So this is lecture number 5. You will recall that the first 2 lectures were on Finder. So it's the old professional services model, Finder, Minder, Grinder. First 2 sessions were on Finder, getting the business. The last 2 had been on Minder. So that's managing the business. For example, last week we talked about standard operating procedures. And then this week we talk about Grinder, and I'm taking a little bit different spin than my book. The book you're going to receive after the final lecture, for those of you that attended all 6, is my 2003 SMB Consulting Best Practices based on this paradigm. And we had a technical chapter, of course, on Small Business Server 2003 down to the procedure level. The world has changed. So when I talk about Grinder, I'm not here to display, it's not a hands-on lab. That's what we would have done back in the day as a hands-on lab. That's not what this is. Those are readily available. This is talking about doing the work, but maybe from a different perspective. Let's get going. So if we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, we're just strangers who are now friends. Harry Brailsford, founder and CEO of SMB Nation, and I'm supported in the background by Jennifer Hallmark in the radio control room. Danny Brown, please, sir, introduce yourself and what's your story?
Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be a part of the panel today. I'm a former MSP who worked for a big global cloud distributor running their channel programs. And now I'm working for an organization called AppGallop, allowing people to have a white label cloud commerce automation portal and marketplace platform.
There we go. And Danny, let's get you back. Let's all go on spring break, but let's get you back soon and do one of our interviews so we can double click down into that. And then don't be so bashful. You're also involved in the IAMCP, excuse me. We're going to talk about that. What is your role?
So I'm currently the IMCP Austin chapter president, and I'm also the IMCP US board member.
All righty. Okay, then folks, it's now your turn. By the way, that's 6 feet of separation up there, folks. If you could use the questions panel to tell me where you're at today. Always like to know where our listeners are coming from. I know we've had people from Florida, California, Washington State, etc. If you have a chance over on the questions panel, please type in the city where you're located. So, okay, Jimmy's back from Houston, Texas. Thank you very much. And we'll let a few more people post up. While we're doing that, of course, we have handouts. The key to the Pocket MBA. Oh, we have another one. Ash is from Houston. Danny, boy, this is really becoming a Texas barbecue. Here's one, Scott Long from Frisco, Texas. What have we done? Folks, we have a handout. That's part of the Pocket MBA system. Before I jump into the good stuff again, I want to thank you for being essentially my beta tester this winter quarter for the Pocket MBA system. We are going to roll out before the end of 2020. So I appreciate your help, and hopefully you're taking away some good stuff. Grinder. Everyone likes to work, so this is not the problem in our space. We don't have malcontents. We don't have people who are disenchanted. They love to work. In fact, that's all they want to do, Danny, is work, given their druthers. And I want you to think about the reason I keep the curriculum fresh. I write it each week, and the reason is times are changing very quickly. And this is clearly a time to start over. So for example, keep your eyes peeled. I'll let you know when I interview Danny about his e-commerce solution. Danny, that's what I would call a start over play for many in our audience. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So we'll want to double click into that. And folks, I want you to be thinking about how you would do it 5 times quicker. I have taken 20 years to build SMB Nation. And I have seen a community that I'm going to share with you in a minute that he did it in 5 years. And it's not quite as large and it's a different flavor, but you need to be thinking about the need for speed. Please see the handout over in the control panel. So when I talk about doing the work, again, this is not a hands-on lab, but we're talking about strategic alliances. So I have a very current example from last week. SMB Nation, this is a business example. This is not an MSP example. Business joint ventures. So we teamed with a basic understanding with a PR firm in Seattle last week because we're an integrated media and events company. That's really what our SIC code would be. At the end of the day, I'd prefer to be called a community. And then the individual up in Seattle, she has a small PR firm in the tech space. We provide paid media opportunities. That means you give me money and we run your banner ad. And then my friend does earned media opportunities. So she's going to talk to analysts and reporters about this really new, really cool new app marketplace that Danny's backing. We just bid on a $60,000 gig that if we win would be split 50-50, which is kind of how I do strategic alliances in general, just to keep everybody motivated and skin of the game. So that's a business example. Now, let's get back to the MSP community. And Danny, love to have you speak up here. Let me kind of rattle off these points. But what I have seen, and I've seen, and we're going to get to the IAMCP slide in a minute, but what I've seen in some of the trade associations in different communities is dynamic CRM plus infrastructure. So for example, I'm an infrastructure guy career-wise, and I use dynamic CRM, but I am in no way qualified to implement dynamic CRM. I have seen these strategic alliances between different partner organizations, different MSPs. The other one I'm seeing is the MSP, the traditional MSP, again, probably focused on the infrastructure side, teaming with a managed security service provider to get that expertise in cyber security. That is effectively a different career path, and there are organizations that will help you with that. And then if you go back to one of our original lectures on Grindr, the first Minder lecture, we talked about outsourcing tier 1 help desk and using virtual assistants. That was about the conversation or the mention I gave with Josh Weiss out of LA Creative down in Southern California. So Danny, not to upstage the IAMCP slide, but have you seen the first 2 bullet points, and then maybe what are other natural acts in terms of a strategic alliance between partners?
I think that the second point that you had, the MSP and the managed security services provider, is a big yes. You have to do that. As right now we look at the future, a lot of companies are tired of having to manage multiple vendors, and so we have seen at IMCP we've seen an 80% reported. MSPs have reported that they have lost customers because their IT offerings lack security solutions. So if an MSP would partner with an MSSP, they would have the ability to, first of all, not only upsell their current environment, but to be able to go and provide those cybersecurity needs and the security assessments and the monthly security protocols to maintain that environment going forward. And so we believe that when it comes to partnering, look at your own environment first, look and see what you're missing, find out what you're missing, and go after partnering with someone who has that expertise. And the MSSP and plus the MSP route is the home run hitter today.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate the validation. Danny, what I'm not seeing as much of, and we all have our biases, and Lord knows we have tried, but I haven't seen the synergies you would think would exist between an MSP and then a QuickBooks professional advisor. So we're basically talking tech and accounting.
Yep.
Lord knows, Danny, we tried in 2007 with Microsoft Small Business Accounting at our fall conference. We really pushed it. they had an association like the IAMCP, and it was just like two good people who couldn't be married and or shouldn't be married. And then to a lesser extent, and again, this you're going to see my bias come through because we can argue about this one, but the other one is telecom and the traditional data MSP. We have tried so many times in my career to marry voice and data. I mean, it might finally be happening with the COVID-19 coronavirus work from home thing with Microsoft Teams, but Danny, that's been tough sledding to get these disparate communities to get married.
I agree. Totally agree with you on that.
All
But
righty.
I like real quick. I like what you said earlier, and it's about having a great strategic alliance. So it's so easy to grow your revenue, grow your business if you have a specific vertical you work with, as well as a specific industry. The QuickBooks, when I was at SureWeb, we worked with a lot of CPA firms. We worked with QuickBooks, making sure that we can host it and Microsoft Azure on the back end, and it actually helped drive revenue because we had partnerships. And it wasn't just all technical meetups anymore. We're now attending meetups with CPAs. We're now attending meetups with individual bookkeepers and firms like that. And you wouldn't believe how much opportunities arose just because of that relationship.
All righty, thank you, sir. Formats. So folks, if you look over at the handouts, today's handout includes a couple of links to joint venture agreements and memorandum of understanding agreements. I've done it all. I've done handshake deals. Probably not the best way to operate, but I have done it. I've done MOUs. Some of the people on this will remember we had an MOU. We had a joint venture with D&H distributing starting in the last recession. So I think we launched that in 09 or 10, and we kept that exclusive relationship with D&H for 3-4 years. It all made sense at the time. And that was evidenced by an agreement we both signed called an MOU. At the end of the day, you know, keep your eye on revenue, the revenue share. Again, I typically start negotiations with a 50-50 split in a joint venture because just by definition, I want us both to be invested in equal partners. And then the philosophy, which I'm not going to be able to pronounce, Kaneki no Baransu, Japanese term. So that means relationship and balance. And that has been, I used to have this standing up as a tagline on my Facebook page underneath the photo on the left. And what we're saying here, and here's been my experience having done some JVs, is it takes a lot more management than you think to keep the relationship intact, honest, and you know, more importantly, profitable. Danny, that's been my experience. I think people way underestimate the time you should be putting into the management of the joint venture. I don't know what your experience has been.
That is correct. I think sometimes when individuals think of a joint venture, they think that things are perceived by itself. At IMCP, we actually utilize a tool called WorkSpan, which is no cost to IMCP members in order to utilize it, but it actually has a project time flow in there where you actually input as much information as possible and you can keep track of how things progress from beginning to end. That's really what's missing. I think sometimes when we think about partnerships, we have an opportunity and then you just wait and hope that somebody closes it or it just magically closes by itself. But you need to figure out who's doing the implementation, how the communication is going with that particular customer, what is the outcome of that implementation, has it gone live, has there been any issues afterwards? There's a lot of things that need to take place in order to make sure that the customer is happy and things are seamless.
Yeah, I've learned the hard way about managing JVs. They don't manage themselves. And Danny, I don't like management, man. I'm a sales guy. The last meeting I want to be in is a management meeting. All right, so here we are. IAMCP. First of all, take a second to define the IAMCP. You're here in Austin, Texas, and Danny, I'm going to pepper the infield, as they say. When I think of IMCP, the thing that has most attracted me is not so much, you know, your advocacy for or with Microsoft, but it was more the partner to partner messaging. Sir, what is the IAMCP?
So when you think about Microsoft's largest independent community, IAMCP is the largest international association of Microsoft channel partners there is. And one thing about the IAMCP, think of it more of a mentorship type of program where other MSPs, similar size, similar needs and growth aspirations can be mentored, can work with other partners in that similar space to grow together. And that's one thing that I love about AMCP. It's not just about receiving feedback from Microsoft, how to navigate the complex Microsoft ecosystem, which we all know is very, very complex, but it's also having peers that you can sit down with and strategize with and determine what is the best way to go to market and grow your particular practice.
Yeah, I poked around over the last day or so. Folks, by the way, I have recently rejoined the IMCP. I took quite a break. I was pretty active in the 1990s, and then life happened and my business model changed. So I rejoined about a month ago here in Austin. $250 a year, I believe, is what I paid, and I feel it's worth it. And so I was poking around the last day or two, Danny, and I came across the index. The point I want to make, and you're going to do a better job, is again, not so much from a finder point of view. We've already talked about how to get the business, but I'm talking a grinder point of view. Is this the tool that I might type in Dynamics CRM in Austin, Texas, and hit search to find a technical partner, or is it a different tool?
So the index is a tool where you could actually put in your background, your information, your name of your company, and you're basically self advertising within the ISP community itself. It is not a tool to do the project management, to actually put in your full profile like a dating profile. That's what we utilize Workspan for. But the index is more of an advertising catalog of who you are and what you are and where you are located at.
Okay. Okay, cool. And with the coronavirus outbreak, how is the IAMCP doing its meetups? I'm assuming you've gone to a virtual format for the monthly meeting.
That is correct. So we're doing a virtual monthly meeting. Our Austin chapter meeting is actually tomorrow, and all of our meetings are done through Microsoft Teams, which is awesome and excellent. If you have an opportunity tomorrow, we're going to be speaking with a couple of direct Microsoft members who will be explaining more about how to work with the channels and how to work more internally strategically. So we are going purely forward with a virtual chapter meetings at this moment.
Makes sense. And folks, the link for this is on your handout today. So give them a fair shake, see if it makes sense to throw a couple $100 over and get involved in this trade association. Let's move on. Folks, what I'm trying to do is I could make your handout with all the different peer groups and communities and this and that. Where I'm trying to add value is I have selected groups that I think are worth your time and in some cases worth your money. So I am the filter in terms of the presentation. So today I want to give a shout out to Scott Sanders in the IT Business Owners Group. So this is a real world MSP over in the Carolinas, and he has organically built a pretty cool group, and he's very careful about monitoring the post ups in the Facebook group in particular. That's where the action really is over in the Facebook group. They do have a site, but he's keeping it real. So not only is he a real IT business owner with his wife in a relatively small practice, but this is a group that I support, and I think they're doing a good job without a hidden agenda. And the conversations, now quite frankly, they tend to be more business oriented about maybe terminating a malcontent employee, but this is where you could team on the grinder level. So combining expertise. So and Scott Sanders has built this group to, I believe, combined it's over 5,000 members, and he's done it in 5 years, and he's got an enthusiastic organization. The community is, on Facebook, it's probably 20, 30 posts a day. He's monitoring it and adding posts. That's all. Danny, it's harder than it looks to build a community. Let me tell you, man.
You've done a great job over these years, that's for sure.
Well, I wish I'd done it 5 times faster, but that's a whole nother story. All right, so CompTIA, everybody knows what CompTIA is. It's the large certification organization, primarily along with a channel program. So they kind of serve two masters. The reason I want you to think about CompTIA is partner to partner matching is because of this person who essentially is one of the players over there. So Amy Cardell out of San Luis Obispo, California, had her husband now runs the MSP, but they have a long established MSP called Clever Ducks. So Amy has carried the bag. Then Amy, in an epiphany, went to law school a little bit later in life, went to law school and became a lawyer. You know, so some of us do that. You know, we go back, we bail out of tech and go to theology school and become a minister or something. So it was kind of along those lines. So now she's an MSP with a law degree, and she has sort of a side hustle with her one-person law practice. But more importantly, for a long time, she was the chairwoman of CompTIA, and that's a big deal. And then now she has joined them as the vice president of strategic workforce relationships. And so this is kind of what she does, is she wakes up in the morning thinking about how to encourage partner to partner and other strategic relationships. So again, CompTIA, it's not for everybody, but I want you to take a second look at that if for no other reason than Amy Cardell is the driving force behind this exact conversation we're having. Danny, I don't know, in your travels as an MSP and ISV and so on, but have you had the opportunity to participate in CompTIA or so on?
Yes, actually, in my last organization, SureWeb, CompTIA was a strategic member and partner with us. We do a lot of events together. I can state that outside of just the learning and certifications that they provide, it's a great network. It's a great opportunity to meet with other partners, and they've done a great job. I can't say anything negative about the relationship we've had with CompTIA.
Yeah, I agree, Danny. My only, if you will, my only hesitation, and it's not the right word, but I typically don't join a trade association to get involved in the political lobbying efforts, and CompTIA is neutral. They're not left or right or any of that. They're there to help, you know, protect us and promote us in government affairs, and Amy would be part of that. Danny, some people look at that and they're like, you know, with my limited time and money, you know, that's not really what I do. I'm an MSP on Main Street. So each to their own, but give them a fair shake. All right, let's talk Spiceworks here in Austin, Texas. A lot of people know of Spiceworks, and a lot of people don't know of Spiceworks. So right before, boy, on February 28th, right before the feathers hit the fan, Friday, February 28th, Jay Hallberg, the CEO and co-founder of Spiceworks, and a friend of mine, we met at the Salt Lick Barbecue here in Driftwood, Texas, on a Friday afternoon for a Friday afternoon club barbecue, red wine. We talked about community building and so on. And I share that with you because I also think you need to make that a foundation of your career, is go out to lunch with people or happy hour or whatever. Don't get away from that, even in bad times, because right now it's going to be a little bit of a land grab in terms of who survives and thrives coming out of all this. Get to my point. Linux over on the left. I typed in Linux. I was actually involved a year ago. Didn't come to fruition, but there was an opportunity for SMB Nation to double click down into the Linux community in the way that we do. And so I was teaming with a local community college in Seattle, Bellevue Community College, with an instructor who knows Linux. Because Danny, you've lived in Seattle, I lived in Seattle. I can spell Linux, but I could be really dangerous at the keyboard with Linux, my man.
You followed me down here, so we've been chasing each other for a while.
Yeah, and the point is, the community grinder can be, what Spiceworks is going to do is they're more of a forum. They do have meetups. They're called the Spice Cores, and it is far more geeky than some of the other communities I've mentioned, like CompTIA. I mean, these are the hardcore IT pros. This is where I could get my questions answered on Linux and or get a little match.com going on and get hooked up with a Linux professional in my area to do work. So shout out to Spiceworks, give them a fair shake. Meetups. Talked about meetups in the Finder portion of the Pocket MBA. Now I want to talk about meetups in the Grinder portion. So here is Fremont, down by Adobe and Tableau in a Seattle neighborhood. And there's a place called Fremont Brewing. Been known to lock my bike up outside along the fence and stop in for a beer when I go around the lake. But what I want to show you folks is there are technical meetups. A lot of people think of meetups in terms of sales and marketing and salespeople selling salespeople and or job hunters bringing their resume to an event. I found a meetup that's the real deal, beers with engineers. And the idea would be that, Danny, it's like the old user group days, 90s and 2000s, where you actually went to the user group with your technical problem, your small business server problem. You went to the Thursday night meeting to find out how to fix the problem. And,
Yep.
and that's what this would be. Now, search engines kind of killed the traditional user groups because now you can get your answers in real time. But folks over in the handout, they have the meetup.com link. Now, starting to wind up today's lecture on the Grinder portion. Again, remember, we're trying to keep these things to about 30 minutes, little bite-sized nuggets. We're right on schedule. So I want you to think about labor markets in two ways. First, I'll tell you about maybe it's a business model you can pursue, providing technical resources to customers from a scalability point of view. So what we did back in 2013 through 14, you will recall next month, April, but rewind to April 2014, the mid-April expiration of Windows XP, so end of life for Windows XP in 2014. And what we did was create a group, and it was a business model briefly. We created a labor market and we got SMB Nation members to sign up because the sheer scale of the opportunity for people to have side hustles, basically, hey, Trip Kirk, and that's actually an SMB Nation member, and this is actually a real story, if you will, but the opportunity arose for us to bid on a senior living centers and to convert simultaneously, like over a 4-day weekend, 6 senior living centers in Florida. And so this would have been one of my resources, an SMB Nation member, and the conversation went along the lines of, hey, Trip, you want to pick up 4 days of work as a side hustle, get paid some cash, and go in and rip and replace laptops and stuff to get it up to, at the time, it would have been, boy, right on the cusp of Windows 8, Windows 10. That was kind of an unusual timing period right in there. So I want you to think in terms of possibly having a labor market from a technical point of view so you could scale. And I would offer that third point on rapid response. Right now, that would make sense in terms of the surge in demand for setting up home offices and remote workers securely. You may be overwhelmed as a small MSP and you might want to go create a labor market and vet out some talent like Trip. That's going to give you scalability both in terms of geography and finally in terms of expertise. And then finally with the labor markets, by the way, this is Work Market that we use, the link's over in your handout. With the expertise, you could go to Work Market and find that Linux expertise I was talking about to supplement your resources to take on a gig. So think anew in terms of Grinder, how you might grow with contractors and contingent staff.
Mhm.
Teaming, Again, folks, back to you. If you want to quickly type in the questions feature a short teaming example that you've done. Danny and I have done all the talking, so if you have something that you want to kind of type in quickly, while you're doing that, Danny, I want to talk about what you and I are doing and present it as a new idea because, Danny, I grew my career. A secret to my success, it's certainly not my physical attractiveness or my slender body, but the secret to my success has been holding, and I called them in Seattle, good old Texas barbecues. I used to do it out on Bainbridge Island, man, the annual picnic. I
Bringing
moved
that
to
down here to
Austin.
Texas now.
Yeah, now I'm actually in Texas. So Danny, I'll just hand it to you that unfortunately we had to postpone the April 4th chili cook-off competition out here. That's a Saturday in 2 weeks. We had to cancel it. We're going to bring that back in September. But in your own words, sir, I believe it was your idea with Rudy. What is a chili cook-off competition and why do we care?
Well, I think when we think about building great relationships, nothing beats food and beer when it comes to networking. But at the same time, it's ability for us to take off the work hat, relax, get to know each other from a deeper personal level. And when you get to know people and you trust people, it's easier to partner with and work with them. So this is a great way to continue to network, a great way to have fun at the same time, see who has the ability to cook the best. So I love the ability to get together, focus on something that's going to relax everybody and kind of similar to your idea of in Fremont, right? Beers and burgers. So this is a great opportunity to do that. And at IMCP here, we're going to do the same thing. We've taken Harry's leadership example, and we're actually going to build a calendar for quarterly events that we're going to do together.
There we go. Okay, folks, couple of quick resources and we're going to call it good. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on. There we go. So there you should see on your screen, and Danny, correct me if it's not displaying, but there's the handout for today in terms of some of the resources that I mentioned. Folks, the IMCP, my bad. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'm going to type it in, but your handout won't reflect this. Danny, I believe it's iamcp.org. Are you an org? Okay, for your main site.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that's the handout. And then I also want to do a shout out right there. Channel Pro SMB just dropped their March issue. They tend to drop after mid-month. So on page 18. So if you go to Channel Pro SMB, page 18 is a 2-pager by Rich Freeman about rest in peace SBS. And a lot of people don't realize the final end of life date, EOL, was January 14th, 2020. So just about 2 months ago. So Rich talks to Amy Babinchak, Dave Seibert, and myself during this piece. Give our friends at Channel Pro a fair shake. And with that said, I have a little surprise for you. A photo from the coronavirus pandemic. I am taking photos this time, Danny, because my memory is already failing me what it looked like in 08 with that crash. And I'm doing a photo essay, and I got word. I'll let you guys know, but I got word. I submitted this to MarketWatch, a financial site like Bloomberg. They had a call for photos, and I just got word this morning that they are possibly going to use this photo in an article on the coronavirus pandemic up on MarketWatch. So folks, got to have fun where we can find it. And I'm not making light of the situation, but I would highly recommend, a picture a day, document your life to show your grandkids. With that said, Danny, thank you so much for being our guest in terms of doing the work via partner-to-partner engagements. We'll get you back spring quarter to talk about what you do with your day job. Jenny in the radio control room, thank you very much. Folks, Thursday, we're going to talk verticals. That's the final lecture for winter quarter. We're going to talk about a couple of different verticals, including the 36-month opportunity I wrote about over the weekend for remote office setups. Thank you again, everybody. Have a great day.